Welcome to the WriterDojo with your hosts Steve Diamond
I'm not dead yet.
and Larry Correia.
Tick-tock, Mr. Wick.
Today's episode back from the deadlines.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the WriterDojo. So it's been a while. I almost forgot how to do that intro, Larry.
It has been a month
So
without an episode.
yeah, it's been a month, and we appreciate you guys. We appreciate the patience that you had with us. It's not like we were off being George Martin or anything, doing nothing. In fact, it was literally the direct
we were
opposite.
literally the opposite of George Martin. But we'll fill you guys in on that. But it's been several weeks since we've last recorded. We went a month without new episodes, which, considering how long we've been doing this, that's actually kind of miraculous.
Yeah.
We've been doing this for a few years now. But this is the first time we've had 1 week gaps before, but this is the first time we had a multi-week gap, and it was because we were both slammed with deadlines.
Yeah. So just so everyone understands, when we say slammed with deadlines, we're not talking like, I had to go get my hair cut or something. It was no, these were drop dead dates.
Yeah.
Like, bad business things happen if we don't hit these dates.
Well, for me, we both had June 1st deadlines. We are recording this a few days after, was today June 3rd? Yeah, so we're recording this June 3rd. And our next episode, we'll talk about actually what we did on June 1st.
Yes.
But on June 3rd, we're here recording, so we both had a June 1st drop dead date. And when I say drop dead date, for me, on the traditional publishing end, what that means is they've got a book on the calendar, and that book is set up with the sales force. That book is set up with the marketing people. For it to get into stores by November release date is what we have on the calendar. For that to actually happen, they need this book from me by June 1st so they can do all that other publishing stuff.
Yeah, it's literally the logistics of printing and shipping.
Well, and editorial,
Yep.
copyright, or I'm sorry, not copyright, copy edit.
Yep.
The one thing that got going for me, and that I could cut it this close, is that I turn in
You're really clean.
really clean manuscripts.
Yeah.
I'm actually notorious. I still have copy edit.
Well, you revise as you write, though.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, which is the same thing that I do.
So when I started out, I couldn't have pulled this off at the beginning of my career because I would turn in a manuscript and it would need a lot of edits. It takes me longer to write a book now than it did when I was young. I was actually faster when I was younger, but the editing process took probably 4 or 5 times as long because there was so much stuff that needed fixing. When I say fixing, I mean story stuff. Like
Yeah. We're not talking like.
Yeah, I'm not talking about.
This isn't like good to glad grammar stuff.
Yeah, I'm not talking about its and its or there and there punctuation, grammar
Form
stuff.
and from.
Right. I'm talking this chapter's stupid.
Yeah.
Or this character doesn't make any sense. Or why did this happen? I'm talking that kind of stuff.
Your entire solution makes no sense.
Yeah, your finale sucks. Add a new one. But as I've gotten better at this, my manuscripts have gotten cleaner and cleaner, and I revise as I write now. So it takes me about 6 months to write a book, give or take. Not this one. It's taken me a lot longer, but I'll get into that.
Yeah.
So that was my thing, but I got that done, and we'll go more into details about that.
Yeah. For me on this side, so you were writing Graveyard of Demons, which is now 2 books.
Yep. We'll talk about that.
I was writing the 3rd Jack Bishop book, Catalyst. And
So Residue, Parasite, and Catalyst.
right, that's correct. And it, I was telling you about this before, a little bit before we got on the air here. And that's that, this book went from, Residue kind of went from languishing to having the entire series out, rewritten, out and done within 9 months. So this is published with Primordial Press, which is Mike Rothman's kind of basically micro self-published press.
Yeah.
So for all intents and purposes, it's a self-published book. Okay. That carries its own different sort of deadlines. So Rothman put this one up for pre-order. Once you press that button and it's up for pre-order and it's visible to the world and pre-orders start popping in on it, you're not allowed to do much.
No, that is bound in blood.
Yeah. So you're allowed to make one month adjustment to it. After that, if you miss that date, they can ban your account, which as a small independent
Yeah, because they're
publisher
saying
is bad news.
It's a bait and switch at that point. So they're covering their butts
Sure.
to keep unscrupulous actors from putting out products, taking money, and then never releasing them.
Yeah. Or, or the indefinite, the George Martining, the indefinite.
The Patrick Rothfuss.
Yeah, exactly.
Could you imagine if they took pre-orders for that 12 years ago?
I mean, you don't, on Amazon, you don't pay until the book actually
Yeah.
ships, till the product actually ships. But, the indefinite, like just stringing you along, like it's bad for business.
It's very bad
just across the board.
Yeah, terrible for business.
And so, they don't want that, obviously. So we were creeping up on my initial deadline. And I called up Mike and I'm like, yo, there's not a prayer that I'm going to hit that initial deadline. So this book was supposed to come out on May 15th.
Right.
And I had a drop dead date on that of, I don't know, a week or two earlier. So I was like, dude, there's no possible way. Like I've talked about this on the show. Like my day job is intense right now.
It's kicking your butt right now. Yeah.
It's intense. And in fact, we're recording today because I'm leaving tomorrow to go on a business trip. I'm gone for 2 weeks. So,
Yeah.
and they're probably going to make me the controller of the company.
Yeah. I mean, so they love you and respect you and give you pretty good money, but it's also a big brain job.
It is a big brain exhausting job.
Yeah. Big brain jobs don't leave a lot of room for writing.
So Mike's like, yeah, sure, Steve, we can totally push your date. I'm like, cool. How much? He's like, a month. Okay.
Ouch. How many words did you have to do?
So,
I remember you told me already, and I was like, oh, dude.
Yeah. So, so residue and catalyst or parasite are each, I don't know, call it 75K on average. Catalyst turned out to be 90. And I wrote that over the last 5 weeks.
90,000 words.
Yeah, I was on the Rick Partlow plan.
You were on the Rick Partlow plan.
Yeah. Thanks, Rick.
That is, guys, for those of you that are new to this, that's an extremely impressive word count.
It's nuts.
Okay, so I when I'm doing well, I'm doing 10,000 a week. So in that same period of time, I would have did 40 or 50,000 words.
Yeah.
So Steve did approximately double that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, like when I say I'm on the Rick Partlow plan, Rick's whole deal is 3K a day, which is fantastic.
That's a lot. Yeah, that's pretty good.
If I'm in the groove, 3,000 a day is no problem for me.
Yeah, it's hitting
that is no
it's
problem.
hitting that magic zone.
Yeah, that's not a problem for me. Some days I can hit that in just a few hours.
Yeah.
Some days it takes me most of the day.
It's funny because I'll work for 8 hours, but really I'll have 2 hours that was like the super productive
sure.
part of it.
Sure.
You know? But if I can do 2,000 words a day for 5 days a week, I'm happy.
No, that's great.
You know, I'm happy. That's good.
So the trouble is being on the Rick Partlow plan while having a full-time job
Yeah.
is less than ideal. But I had to. Like I had the deadline.
Right.
I had no choice.
So Steve basically canceled everything in his life other than work.
Oh yeah, I left the house twice over the past month.
Yeah. I barely talked to you.
I know, yeah. Well, and like two of our next episodes are going to be talking about the 2 days that I left the house.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, during this, the only 2 chances Steve had to actually have fun were with me.
Yeah.
And we did do some cool stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. We stabbed things and shot things.
We did literally. Actually, we'll get into that. We hacked and slashed and shot stuff.
So it's, but so you understand the stress of this, and I don't recommend this. I don't think this is healthy.
No.
So
You can do
every
it, but
day.
you can't do it a lot.
No, I'm freaking burned out.
Yeah.
You can tell just by looking at me.
Oh yeah.
Well, and you saw me yesterday.
He's got bags under his eyes, guys.
So I was aiming for the 3K a day because that makes math easy, right? That's 21,000 a week because I wasn't taking off weekends because I couldn't. But stuff happens, and there's only so much brain power after a 10 or 12-hour workday. So I would sit down, I would write, and then I would get to the weekend and I would do the math, and I'm like, how many words behind am I to that 21K a week? And oftentimes it was a lot. So, so there were a couple days, there were a couple Sundays where they were 10K days.
And those are brutal, guys.
They are rough.
We've all done that, and
Yeah.
they're not. My record's like, we've talked on the show.
12.
16.
Oh, is it 16?
It was
Son of the Black Sword?
Son of the Black Sword, yeah. The last few chapters of Son of the Black Sword, 16,000 words I did in one day.
Another crazy deadline that you had.
And that was a crazy deadline forced upon us by sales and marketing because we had a chance to be the cover of a major wholesale catalog.
And you don't say no to that.
Yeah, and they said, okay, if you can get us the arcs by X date, we will put you as the cover of this. It was Baker and Taylor.
Yeah, it was BT.
Major, huge catalog, goes to every bookstore in America, and you'll be on the cover. And I would be stupid not to take this chance. However, the deadline, I thought I had another month to finish the book.
No, I remember you called me panicked.
I had 2 days to finish the book. And it went from 1 month. I thought I had a month to write the last 20,000 words and polish. No. For those of you that read Son of the Black Sword, it's got a good ending.
Book.
But yeah, I wrote that in one day.
Yeah, but so that was kind of the deadline I was up against because, if I didn't finish it, if we didn't, and it still needed to go through some edits. The good news is that the editorial process on this was different. So, as I was writing, I was getting pretty decent chunks of writing done every week, right? Mm-hmm. So I'd ship them off, and they would go straight to the editor. So each trailing chunk of book was being edited as I was writing the next chunk. Now that's not ideal because obviously things are going to change as you're writing.
Yeah, you're going to go back in time and fix stuff and have better ideas.
This is one of the very few books that I think that was okay. And that's only because I've known what this book is going to be for years.
Right.
Like I knew. I already knew.
There's been a back burner project for you for like 5 years.
Yeah. I knew exactly where this book was going from start to finish. Now, obviously, being a discovery writer, things changed as I went along, and I fixed those. And after I got my edit back, I went through and incorporated all the edits, and then made some further tweaks. But that sped up the process by an insane amount. And Dave Butler was the editor.
Oh, and Dave's brilliant.
And Dave's great.
Dave's great. Dave's wonderful to work with, guys.
Dave's awesome. Probably the best compliment I can give Dave, besides the fact that he was doing these on time crunches, is that he lets the author be the author.
Yeah.
And I don't think I can give a higher compliment to an editor than that.
Yeah, we've had Dave on the show before.
Yeah.
We'll definitely have him on again.
Yeah, Dave's rad. So anyway, so I finished it like a few days ago.
Yeah.
So my eyes hurt, my brain hurts. I got bifocals during the middle of it. My computer died in the middle of it.
Yeah. I remember you did tell me about that. He had to rush to the store and buy a new computer. And this is why we email our manuscripts to ourselves, guys.
Yes.
So that you can go get to your email and just get that file and start again.
Have it on there, have it on Dropbox, something.
Yep. That has saved my butt a couple times.
Yes. So anyway, those are the deadlines. Like, you have to understand that there comes a point, there are soft deadlines and there are hard deadlines. Our deadlines were not just hard deadlines, they were cement walls.
Right.
Like, you get it done or you're done.
So we did not meet during this period of time because by that point, like we would normally record at night. Nah, we were too fried.
Yeah.
We were just too fried.
No. Well, and frankly, we didn't have time.
Yeah.
You know, if we would have sat down and met, there's that whole guilt, I think, that comes where you're like, I should be writing.
I should be writing. Yep. Which is why I yell at people on the internet all the time when they give writers crap.
Yeah.
We've talked about this on the show
It's
before.
like, bro, we put ourselves under enough stress.
It's like, you guys, when you say that to writers, you are not helping. I guarantee you are making everything worse for that writer. If you love that writer, do not ever tell them you should be writing, because they already feel guilty.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Larry and I, we're going to talk about some of the stuff we learned during this process
I had
of
a big,
being crazy deadlines.
I've never had to cut a book in half before.
Well, and I made a very unlike Steve choice for my ending. So we'll be right back.
Out in the far reaches of space, a lost colony of Earthlings has thrived for hundreds of years. These brave men and women may ride alien steeds and herd genetically altered new cats. Their hats and six guns harken back to a time in the Old West, when a man's word was his bond and no one abided a back shooter. Colt Ostergaard has taken his share of railgun slugs and lead bullets in his time, and now that time is up. He has 6 weeks to live, if he's lucky. There might be a cure, but the experimental prototype was stolen from the local gene bank. To catch the thieves and get the prototype back into the doctor's hands, he'll need the help of old friends and new, and time is not on his side. Guns Against the Dying Light tells his story in Space Cowboys 5, Cattle Drive, an anthology from Racketeer Press featuring many other authors and their stories. Get it now from Amazon.com, Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, and other fine bookstores. Pick up your copy today.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Okay. So when you're in the process of doing these nut job deadlines that we did, I think it's inevitable that you end up learning weird things and that weird things happen to you. So the most simple one, of course, is thou shalt always back up your stuff.
Yeah, Steve's computer died. Huge, big deal.
So people understand. I mean, I posted this in the dojo group, but I'd written 10,000 words the day before, and I thought, that's a really lot of words. I'm going to email myself right now.
Yeah, you don't want to lose that.
Next day, I'd written about 400 words as I was cooking a brisket, of course, and all of a sudden my screen dies and my MacBook won't let me in. I hook it up to an HDMI port and it won't accept my password, but it won't lock me out of the password to recover it. It was pure madness. Finally got it to work anyway. Whole point is, those are some of the lessons you learn. Thou shalt always back up your stuff. Save yourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's start with the logistics of cutting a book in half, Larry.
I've never done this before. And
Not very many people have, Larry.
Yeah, a little bit of backstory here. Graveyard of Demons was supposed to be the final book of the series.
Of a trilogy.
Well, years ago, to be fair, it was pitched as a trilogy. Okay, it was pitched as a trilogy to Toni Weisskopf. She laughed and said she said, no, this is at least 5 books. And I said, no, I can get in a trilogy. I wrote Son of the Black Sword, and that was according to what I had outlined. You guys know I'm an outliner. And then House of Assassins is book 2, and it was the first half of what I had imagined would be the book. But what happened, so the series went on, is all the books in the series are about 130 to 140,000 words.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Give or take. My books tend to be pretty close in size across the series, except for Monster Hunter at the very beginning because I was new.
Yeah. Pretty much everything is right around 140, 150 for you. 130 to 150 for you is your
it just kind of depends. And so, and as you guys know, Son of the Black Sword is plotted more like a thriller than most epic fantasy, where it's languid navel gazing. Let's talk about what they had for every meal, that kind of bull crap. I don't do that. So I write fast, punchy books. Well, I started working on Graveyard of Demons last year. And as you guys know, I've talked about it on the show, 2023 was one of the hardest years I've ever had in my life. And we've gone into it a little bit. I won't go back into it, but it sucked. 2023 was for us
Yeah.
a tough year.
Yeah, that was bad juju that year.
Yeah, and so I just did not get done what I needed to get done. So I go into 2024 and I'm refocused. I took a break from Graveyard of Demons and went and wrote the third Lost Planet Homicide novella, which will be coming out here from Audible here pretty soon.
Do we know when yet?
I don't actually have the date on that.
Okay.
Yeah. Very excited for that though, because of great
I'm
series.
excited for that one. I love that
Well,
series.
but that actually breaking away and going and writing a 25,000 word novella was a nice little change of pace. So I came back.
Well, yeah, you and I had that conversation, and I was like, bro, just
Go do something else.
like write something different. Get your head out of there.
And I did. So I came back with a better headspace. And from that point on, I was flying. And I was doing about 10,000 words a week. Problem with wrapping up a series as big as this and as complicated as this is there's a lot of stuff. And I was writing. And I got to the point where to get to what I wanted to do and have everything and have a satisfactory conclusion, not just for Ashok, the main character, but for also, all the other
side characters, the world, like.
And there's a lot of really beloved side characters in this series. Like, and I'm not talking about like throwaway characters. I'm talking about like the real important ones. Mm-hmm. And there's so much stuff that honestly, the book would have been 270,000 words.
Now I know the inevitable thought is, well, that's okay, right? And here it is okay, right? It is okay. But not for this series.
Right. If every other book in the series is 130,000 words or 140,000 words, to have the last book in the series be 270 seems a little goofy.
Well, especially when you can just split it in half.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. So I started looking at it and I was like, okay, so if I'm splitting this thing in half and I want it to be about the same size as the other books, where would I split it at? And I looked at the book and what I already had done. And I had what originally was a pivotal action sequence where the good guys take a major hit.
Empire Strikes Back.
It's very Empire Strikes Back. And I get to that scene and I was like, wow, that is a scene that is powerful and that's important. And that actually raises the stakes a lot if we end it. So I didn't just cut the book in half like willy-nilly and just say, okay, this is where I'm stopping.
Well, because that is the biggest concern in this sort of environment.
Yeah.
That it's just you're gonna cut it in half at the word count number. And then, dun, 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 to be continued.
Yeah, and I looked at that,
like a 90s TV show.
And I said, no, that doesn't work. So what I did is I restructured that scene to be a more evocative actual final action sequence. And
Did it grow? Did it get bigger?
It actually got about 5,000 words bigger.
Okay, yeah, I figured.
A little more complicated.
Yeah.
And then I actually took another scene that was just kind of like one of the opening scenes of the next section. And I actually used it as kind of an epilogue.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And what it did as moving it to that end sequence is it actually so the book ends on a major revelation about the nature of one of the supporting characters, who is a big deal. And it puts into perspective Ashok's relationship with that person better as we go forward into the next book. And so it actually wrapped up really well. Now, how well did the Graveyard of Demons actually wrap up? So the two people who've read it so far, I know you've been too busy.
I've been too busy. I have it.
But the two people who've read it so far are both Bayan employees, Jason Cordova and producer Jack, who's now Bayan's marketing director.
Yep. They both thought it was dope.
They both loved it. And these guys, just they're my friends, but they're not going to blow smoke up my butt.
No.
Especially, I've known producer Jack for 20 years, and then Cordova is actually Cordova's too honest for his own good when he's talking to other writers.
Yes, he is.
So Cordova will straight up tell you if he doesn't like something, but no, they both loved it.
Jason's actually really, really critical.
He's very critical, which is great.
Yeah, he's very, very critical when it comes to what he likes and what he dislikes.
Yeah.
And that's a good first opinion to have, in my opinion.
I'll also put it this way. Both of those guys who are huge fans of the series liked it more than Tower of Silence.
Yeah.
Which, as you guys read Tower of Silence, that was a really good book. And so now I'm moving into the sixth book. And
the sixth book of your trilogy.
This one is the final because it's basically the story's all done and I'm just fleshing out. Plus, by doing this, it also gives me more time. It buys me several more months.
Well, and for traditional publishing, doing this also, just straight up from a business standpoint, this means more money.
Yeah, now nuts and bolts for you guys as the writers here, it gives me one more book.
And in a traditional publishing environment, That's really important.
Yeah. Now, if I was in KU and it was just one giant fat book and it's based on page views,
Doesn't matter.
it's page views. I was told it'd be 270,000 words, right? But now it's two separate books, which also for me, which in this series is a big deal, is it's two separate audiobooks.
That's right.
Which is huge. Now, there will once again be a delay on the audiobook because sorry guys, the nature of this series is it's Tim Gerard Reynolds is the narrator.
He's one of the most in-demand narrators on the planet.
Yeah, so Tim is one of the most in-demand narrators there is, period.
He's dope.
Ergo, it is what it is.
Yeah.
They were like, hey, we could get this release for you on release day if you want to switch to a different narrator. And I was like, no, I do not want to do that.
No. As an avid audiobook reader, that's a big no.
I said no, thank you. I will wait for Tim's schedule.
Yeah.
And so,
It's worth it.
yeah, and that's another thing about the June 1st deadline is we get him sooner. So that's where I'm at now, and I'm working towards the last one.
So after you've done this, right? You've done kind of the first half. You've reorganized things. How did that change your plan going into part 2?
It changed the beginning of part 2. Because
Kind
all
of that transition from
right earlier there was a simple transition. They have this big final battle. And then they move on to they travel to the next place where the final thing is going to happen. Well, I couldn't just open the book on just marching. That's boring.
That's boring.
Yeah. And plus talking about stuff, you know. So what I did instead is I actually had that short story, The Testimony of the Traitor Ratul, which I love. And
It's a good story.
I put it in what anthology was that in? The Sword and Sorcery anthology.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have this short story called The Testimony of the Traitor Ratul, and it's brilliant. It's a great short story.
What is that Sword and Sorcery anthology called?
I can't remember. Is it?
Is it the Brian Thomas Schmidt one from back in the day?
No, that was that was where I did the story about the Keeper of Names.
Oh, that's right. I got
years
this
and years ago.
Yeah.
Well, I can't remember. I had this short story in something. A lot of people haven't seen it.
Or is this the Sword and Planet?
But it's basically the testimony of Sword and Planet.
Yeah, there's Chris Rocchio's Sword
Chris
and Planet.
Rocchio's, yeah. So it's in there. So I had this really great short story that actually wound up being a super good prologue once I added about another 1,000 words to it.
Okay. So you had to take the story, kind of massage it so that it flowed more in as like a prologue going into the book.
So because what it is the testimony of one particular character basically telling a story of his life. And this is a major important character in the books because he's kind of a mentor to like 4 different characters who are a big deal, but in entirely different ways. So it's his story. It's basically him sealing his testimony in his blood before he dies. We've never gotten his version of events, but it also makes a wonderful recap for the overarching main plot of the series.
Seeing that, I mean, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, I guess.
That was luck.
That's luck. Like it just
luck.
worked. It just happened to be like right piece of fiction at the right time to fit the need that you had.
When it's interesting now, what this does too is it makes both of these books about within 5,000 words, just 5,000 words bigger than Tower of Silence, previous book in the series.
See, it's perfect math at that point.
Yeah, so business-wise and creative, sometimes business and creativity clash. In this case, creativity and business went hand in hand.
Yeah. So for me, the weirdest thing about this process, so there was a moment where I was like, oh crap, am I going to have to pull a Larry and split this? Because we were talking. And I'm like, oh crap.
We call it pull a Jim Butcher. He did it before I did.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So I got to the point though where I'm like, you know what? Like, if I pad this out, I can probably split it, but I'd rather have a slightly longer, tighter book, single book, than push this out into 4.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I don't think padding is ever the right answer.
No. So,
because my 270K between the two was lean.
Yeah,
there was not really any extra play.
Oh, I mean, my 90K on this is lean. Yeah. You know me. I always write tersely and lean.
Yeah, because
that's my
especially
thing.
If that's how you've established the series. Because if you have 2 books that are like terse, lean, fast, thriller paced, and the third book gets like, and now they ate rabbit for dinner, and her dress was blue, and her dress was red, And that guy's dress was green, and he had chicken for dinner with mashed potatoes and parsley.
No,
Who cares?
no, no. I only discuss food if it's relevant to the character's likes and dislikes.
Most of the time I've heard describe food in Monster Hunter, it's actually either because it's funny or it's leading into a fight. Like the great buffet fight.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And 4. Yeah. So the biggest issue that I had was this was my first time finishing a series.
Yeah.
And that comes with its own set of baggage.
And this is the first time you've done that. That is a big deal. Yeah.
When I remember I was kind of creeping up on some of the ending, and you and I, we drove down to do a thing that we'll talk about in our next episode. And I was like, Larry, I have 2 endings. I have a very Steve, kind of dark, horror, kind of grim, but a little bit bittersweet ending. Or I have an actual happy ending, like in mind. Like, I mean, it's not roses getting there
no, it's
for
still
sure.
it's still dark.
Yeah, but there is a tie a bow on it resolution.
Yeah, and so we were driving. It was a long drive.
Yeah,
and
we were
then-
driving down to Provo.
Yeah, we're driving into Provo. It's about an hour and a half for us,
Yeah.
right? And you were giving me both. So Steve gave me the elevator pitch on both endings,
Yeah,
and I was thinking about it. And honestly, I could see pros and cons to both.
either ending would work.
Honestly, that's the thing. I think either one would work, but if you went one way, it would make the book a thing, and if you went
okay.
the other way, it'd make the book an entirely different thing.
So for those of you who've watched Godzilla, which is on Netflix now, Larry,
The -1, I haven't seen that
you
yet.
should watch it.
I heard
It's on streaming now.
Yeah. Well, you know how often I go to the theater.
Yeah,
Once a
with
year.
me.
Yeah, once a year. I went twice this year.
Nice.
I saw Boy Kills World. It was pretty good.
Oh yeah. So without spoiling it for Larry, the ending of Godzilla can go 2 different ways. It can go very kind of like a dark, tragic, heroic ending, or kind of a happy, heroic ending. And when you watch the movie, and you'll notice this, Larry, I want you to watch this for this exact purpose. You'll accept both endings by the time you get to the end of the movie. And that's a really good spot to be.
That's interesting.
It's fascinating. It's a fascinating way to do it, right?
Okay.
Because you're like when the one ending happens, you go, I buy it. And then you stop and you think and you go, but if it'd gone the other way, I still would have bought it. Like it would have worked. And that's where I was at.
I'll have to watch Godzilla before the next time we record.
And that's where I was at. Now, I made a very specific choice. And I think part of it had to do with I was very, very tired. And my day job is eating my soul. I don't sleep. Nobody trusts each other. We're all very tired, I'm Kurt Russell right now.
Got our quote for the next episode.
So I'm just tired. And I was like, you know what? For my own health, I'm writing the heroic ending.
That's cool.
And it works.
Yeah.
It's good. It's a cool ending. So that was one of the biggest challenges. Because look, the sequel, the second book in the series, Parasite, that is my Empire Strikes Back moment. It ends dark. And that's the comment everyone made. They're like, yeah, I was getting to the end and I didn't see how Jack was going to save everything. I'm like, that's because he doesn't. Suckers.
Yeah. They lose.
They lose. Bad. And so going into this third book, I'm like, man, just like you, I'm like, crap, I have these side characters. Some are good, some are bad, but they all need their ending. This world needs its ending. The character arcs that I started in book 1, this is where they come to an end. In fact, even as I was writing, I got towards the very end when they're going into the final little conflict, and I have one of the characters, like as everything is starting to come together, all the good and the bad is all coming together for a conflict, and she goes, "Oh, this is it." I was like, "Yeah, this is it." And so I'm writing, and I'm like, "Okay, I damn well better stick this."
Yeah. Yeah. You get one chance.
Yeah, that's it. You get one chance.
Yeah.
And
that's one thing that's the pressure of ending a series.
yeah,
That's one reason I had to split mine, was because
you just had a lot of ground to cover.
you got a lot of ground to cover. You get one chance. This is the ball game, guys.
Yeah.
There's no going back and saying that, oh, what happened to so-and-so?
No, this is bottom of the ninth in the last game, in Game 7 of the World Series.
Well, people talk
And you're
about
done.
why did Tolkien spend so much time at the end of Lord of the Rings? Because he wanted to.
Yeah. and look, I mean, so this book is a tight 90,000 words. And as I was doing edits and stuff, I was telling you, Larry, I was like, yeah, I could have added here and here and here, and easily got this up to 100, 110. But I'm not sure it would have been a better 100 or 110.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If one day I pull a Stephen King and I do the author's definitive edition, where I add 900 pages or something, maybe then, but like the other part of this, and this is and I told you this the other day, here's the funniest thing about this. I'm so looking forward to listening to some different music.
Oh yeah, because you're a soundtrack writer. So you've been like 16 hours a day listening to your soundtrack.
Yeah, the same soundtrack. And I'm like, oh, I just need to listen to something else for a little bit. Yeah. Thank goodness my next projects have nothing in common with this.
You know what the most common music is for Son of the Black Sword and for Graveyard of Demons? The King Arthur soundtrack, the Guy Ritchie version.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's funky. It's actually pretty good though. And also Sicario.
Mine was synthwave for this. It was like,
yeah.
I mean, there was some Carpenter Brute in there.
Oh yeah.
There was some the Midnight, and
there was some of the Cyberpunk 2077 soundtrack.
Yeah, that's Perturbator. Yeah, so I had some of that in there too, but it was very 80s synthwave stuff, right? Gunship.
John Carpenter.
Yeah. So it's like Gunship and Midnight and stuff like that. Fury Weekend. So it's like all this random, and it's perfect. I mean, it's perfect for the book. And I made my playlist public on Spotify so people could listen to it if they wanted to. But dude, I've heard those songs so many times.
Yeah.
I'm like I need to go listen to some Epica and Sabaton again, just for my own health.
Yeah, I was going to say, Sabaton is more in line with Servants of War.
Correct.
That is a very Sabaton-y
Gee,
novel.
what could I be writing next?
Yeah, that's a very Sabaton-y novel right there.
Yeah, I'll get back to writing, to listening to Sabaton and Camelot and Catatonia and stuff like that. The stuff I love. Yep. So some Epica in there. Maybe a little bit Within Temptation, but I'm very driven by the music that fits the book, and so I'm excited. But I think that what I learned the most out of this is how much pressure I put on myself, and I think that, and I know you do the same thing, Larry. It's when you're getting there to the end, man. If you care about your book, and you care about your story, and you care about the fans who are going to read that story, you have to give it 200% on that ending.
You got to make it as good as you can in the time that you have allotted.
And that's right. And this is where the business term good to glad comes from. Not good to great. That's a whole different thing. Good to glad. And are there points in that book where I look back and I think, could I have written that little part maybe a smidge better? Of course there is. Of course, there's always going to be that. I could spend months and months fine-tuning it. Would it make the book a little bit better? Maybe. Does it matter? I'm not sure it does.
Yeah. It's like that old saying, the enemy of good enough is excellence, and the enemy of excellence is good enough.
Yeah.
You gotta,
Sometimes you just got to make a choice and go.
well, and sometimes you gotta kick that bird out of the nest. And deadlines force that.
Yeah.
And the more you do this professionally, the more you're going to run up against that. And then we're going to have to figure out how to work that in and come to terms with it.
Yep.
Big time.
Yep.
And I think this last month for us, the thing that had to give was basically everything.
Was everything.
Everything other than writing.
The thing that had to give was life.
So our apologies to you, gentle listeners. Thank you, our supporters. We appreciate you guys, but we are back. And hopefully we won't have to do this again for a while.
My goodness. The other flip side of this, Larry, is it kind of, and I know you're the same way. It kind of makes me jazzed because I'm like, oh, that's done.
Yeah.
I get to do the next thing.
It's like I told you guys, I have a Song of Triumph.
Oh yeah.
I haven't played the Song of Triumph yet because I still got to get the edits back. And
I
plus
need to put mine out, but
I'm plus still waiting for a few words to be translated into Hindi for me.
yeah.
And once I have that, that'll be done. Then I will play the Song of Triumph,
Yep.
which for you, as you guys know, is Illuvia Innis Mona, heavy metal bagpipes.
Yep. Yep. Mine's Veil of Elysium by Camelot.
Yep.
So-
Got to have everybody writers. You need a Song of Triumph.
All right. All right. With all that, just imagine our songs of triumph playing in the background as we go. We won't actually do that for copyright reasons, but that's it. Thank you guys so much for your patience. We appreciate you all. This is the Writer Dojo. We'll see you on the next one.
WriterDojo is Steve Diamond and Larry Correia. Produced by Jack Wilder and Bear and Hare Studios. Theme song, Word Mercenaries by Craig Nivo. New episodes come out every Wednesday wherever you stream your content. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can help support us by going to anchor.fm/WriterDojo, by leaving a 5-star rating and review, and by helping to spread the word. To advertise on the Writer Dojo, email ads@writerdojo.com. All questions and comments can be emailed to questions@writerdojo.com.
Pull a Jim Butcher. He did it before I did. That's true. Yeah.